Hello and welcome to the TCS podcast, where we are dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success to create lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy, president of TCS. Joining me today is one of our wonderful members, Mr. Jordan Lambeth. Welcome, Jordan. Thanks for being on. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
Before we get into this, why don't you tell everybody your story, especially in the community? We like to know each other's story and how you got started and where you're at now. So from when you started to now.
So I got started in the asphalt industry 20 years ago, right at 20 years ago. Came out of college and was landscaping and just hated landscaping. Was actually mowing for a paving company, and I knew the owner. And he came out one Friday and was talking with me, and I was telling him how much I hated what I was doing. So he offered me a job. I told him I knew nothing about asphalt other than it was black and it was hot. So he told me he'd teach me everything else. So I went to work for him and honestly haven't looked back since. I did leave that company after about 4 or 5 years and went to work for the city of Greensboro. That was the only reason I left, was because the economy had taken a downturn in 08 and 09. So I went to the city of Greensboro and ran their entire asphalt department here, 20 minutes from home, and was there and started doing this on the side. Made a Facebook post one day just saying we were going to start doing some asphalt work on Fridays and Saturdays when I wasn't working my public job. And honestly, we had a significant amount of people reach out on Facebook saying they needed things done. So I didn't have anything. I had a friend that was going to let me use a paver of his as long as I'd help him pave on his site work. So he told me, he said, look, if you pick up some work, you're welcome to use my machine. So knew a lot of people, thankfully. Just that Facebook post kind of got it started. We registered a business before we started doing any work, and it just kind of blew up from there. Really just started doing this, and then it got to a point where I was talking with my wife, with Catherine, about whether or not to stay at the city or do this full time. It was, both of us were very leery. And then went to church one Sunday, and it was one of those sermons that you hear where the preacher's just like stepping all over your toes. I'll never forget, I stood up at the end of the service and I told Catherine, I said, I'm going to quit. And she's like, okay. I did. I went into work the next day and told my manager, well, I was going to. This is one of those things that I always tell people. I told my manager, or I was going to, and I got scared. So I jumped in my truck and was going to check on some of my crews for the city. And I got a phone call and I picked up another $180,000 contract. And it was one of those God moments where you just hear that and you're like, okay, Lord, like I got you. So I literally turned around and went back. I got over my cold feet part at that point. So I worked a big notice and haven't looked back since.
That's a great story. What were some of the earliest challenges, like the early on, what were some of those early challenges you faced? I mean, you said one, but when launching the business?
And honestly, one of the biggest things was just borrowing people's stuff, help. You know, we were renting things. I knew a lot of the rental companies just through years past. So I was renting what I didn't own because I couldn't afford to buy it. So we did use a friend of ours' paver. Literally had a friend of mine, we've been friends since we were kids. I'd call him and say, hey man, like, we need your trailer. I need your blower and your wheel. Bring it with you. I was borrowing everybody's stuff to get this thing off the ground. But now, thankfully, everybody comes and borrows our stuff. I've got stuff to repay. I probably owe Donnie a trailer and weed eaters and blowers to repay him for that. Just hiring help. We had people that I would take from the city on Fridays that would help. So that was one of the biggest hurdles, was to pave with 3 or 4 people where you need 8. We were doing it with 3 or 4 with just minimal amounts of equipment.
Good stuff. What's been a pivotal moment or decision in your company's story that changed direction or accelerated your growth?
Honestly, the biggest pivotal moment was when I truly decided to walk away from that public job and just truly put my heart into this, and devote all of my effort towards this and not try to split my time between the two. That was when we really took off, much faster than I ever had dreamed of.
Dealing with all the complexity that you've had to deal with, and just, being a business owner, figuring things out, equipment, personnel, all this and all that. How have you managed to scale your operations while maintaining your quality? And I know what's big to you is your reputation. How have you managed to do that while scaling?
So honestly, like you and I've talked about it, I really need to be looking to hire more people on the admin side, project management side, probably. So what I've done, literally late nights and early mornings, in the office, there were nights that after the kids would go to sleep, I'd work on the computer, try to get proposals out at night. And then, for a long time, I finally gotten to the point I don't get up at 4:00 every morning anymore. I still will, like a couple times a week, I will get up at 4, and I try to be in the office by 4:30 just to get ahead. Because I get more done before the phone starts ringing during the day. But that's a complexity thing. I think it's a growing pain that we've dealt with. That Catherine and I both, like, it's just every minute you get where you're not parenting, you end up putting back into the business.
What do you think, what role does today's equipment and technology play in your business?
Honestly, like, equipment, of course, equipment has evolved over the years from what we started with 20 years ago. So much more electronic stuff that's easier to run. Pavers aren't near as hot to run. Now we've got generators and electric screeds instead of propane torches like we started with. So that's been a big deal, just finding good equipment that's efficient. Technology, we've started using, in the past year, we went to one crew and we've been using that. So I've been trying to get that implemented, and I've had, really good luck with it so far. I think that it can do so much more than we're even allowing it to do at the moment. But I think when we can finally implement that to, its full potential, it's going to take a huge load off of Catherine and I both, just trying to keep up with some things. So that's one of the software things. Rollers are what they are to us. We don't have the density in place rollers yet, but we run mostly Hom rollers, and have had really good luck with those through John Deere. So that's been nice to run those machines, and then leave wood pavers.
Yeah. What do you think, in your experience, are the hidden costs contractors often underestimate?
So, one of the biggest costs that I had to learn to quit underestimating was stone on jobs. Just every time I figured stone, we'd end up going over. It took me quite a while. It actually took me talking to some other contractors that did the same type of work we do, but I ended up having to start adding like 8 to 10% on everything we did, just to cover deficiencies, low points and subgrades and things like that. But that really was one of my biggest things that I underestimated throughout the first few years of this thing. We'd be 10 to 15% over on stuff, and that can get in your pocket bad, especially with the way stone prices are moving up right now.
What systems or processes have you put into place to ensure that your job sites run smoother and margins protected?
So thankfully, we've got some really good guys that run our job sites, to make sure that they do run smoothly. The biggest thing is every morning we go over the plan for the day with each crew supervisor, the stone crew, paving crew, and the seal coat striping crew. Just try to make sure that they've got everything laid out for the way that they're going to run, where they're going to start on the job, how they're going to end. And it takes planning those days before to try to make sure that everything is smooth going into it. As far as margins being protected through that, we pray that they are, and we've had really good luck keeping our margins the way that they should be. But we just try to communicate as well as we can with each other and with our customers to make sure everything's running correctly.
Well, let's talk about how you differentiate yourself from all the others. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So, a lot of people out there that do what you do. How do you differentiate your services? And then what's your why or brand promise? So if I could wrap that all into one question, even though those were two separate questions.
No, that's cool. I read that, and I used to never read it. So one of the things that we strive to do, and we're honest with our customers, even if it's going to hurt to tell them, hey, like, we cannot get there. It's going to be longer than we thought. Something's come up. We've had breakdowns, anything. We're honest. I don't try to lead people on and say, hey, we're going to get there next week, and we just don't show up. I've seen people do that. There are people in this business that I get phone calls once a week saying, hey, this guy has left me hanging. Can you help me? And typically we can at times, but I try not to step on other people's toes, so we just stay out of it as much as possible. Differentiating, I always say we do what we say, and we keep customers informed, whether it's something they want to hear or not. We're just honest with them. My why. So tell all of our employees this. My name's on this company, my family name, my great-grandfather, grandfather, dad, uncles, all of them made a name for the Lambeths. Like in Guilford County, Rockingham County, North Carolina, most people know someone with our last name, and we've got a pretty good reputation, I think. But I always tell people I put my family's name on the side of these trucks, and I will uphold that name to a point of losing money if necessary. I want our customers to be satisfied. I want to make sure that everyone knows that this name is someone that people can trust. I haven't had any trouble doing that so far. I mean, there's some nights I lose sleep over trying to make things right, but that is my why of just upholding this family name, because my grandparents would expect that, and I've got to do it for my children as well.
We'll talk about that even a little bit more. What about that local reputation? How does that play into your current customer acquisition strategy?
And honestly, we just got a decent website like a year and a half ago. We were working with near nothing, and everything we did was we would make a Facebook post every once in a while just because, and it would bring in some work, but most of it was word of mouth. People just reaching people, telling about their experiences with us. And it also, like, I grew up in a small town in Rockingham County, Reedsville. So I went to high school there, knew everybody in that school. My dad lived in Brown Summit, which is where I live now. But in the summers, I would stay with my dad and work on my uncle and granddaddy's farm. So I knew people like all through these two counties. And just knowing that many people, when we started telling people we were doing the work, it just, as people would hear, and friends would hear that their businesses were looking to do something, they would mention our name. It's been amazing how that's worked through word of mouth and referrals through friends.
For those contractors that are listening, how do you think, or how should they think about their own value proposition and how they package it to stand out? Any tips?
So honestly, I mean, what I've got is just, as far as their own value, understanding what they're doing, how to do it as well as they can. And just to stand out, like being there on time. Like when people call us, up until a few weeks ago, my cell phone was the main number for this entire business. As customers would call, I'd find out as much information as I could, write it down, and then I would, try to set an appointment with them as quickly as possible, sometimes on the same phone call, to be there and show them like, hey, we can be that person that you can call on, that when you need something, we're there. So just doing that, and then just upholding the quality. spending that extra, if it's $1,000 on the job, if it's 10,000, to make sure that it's right. That's what we do. And I think making sure that that quality is there has just taken it on to the next level and made us stand out because of that.
Looking back on things now, what's one thing you wish you knew, or what's one thing you would go back and give yourself advice on to your younger self?
So I thought about that one for a little while. But really, I think as far as advice, I would have started sooner. It's been tough. I've heard Brian talk about it on his podcast about, if I'd have known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have ever done this. And he's right. I had no idea the challenges that we would face on some of the jobs. Just personally, just trying to juggle this and be a decent husband, a decent father, and keep up with all that has been an extreme challenge. But we're getting through that as best we can. But I would have started sooner and just not be afraid of failing. When I was contemplating leaving the city and doing this full time, I didn't want to get to a point of retirement with the city after 30 years, and I'd have been 55 at that point. But I didn't want to get to a point and say, dang, I wish I'd have known. What if I'd have tried paving? Like, how would that have been? I knew in 30 years what I was going to do with the city. I was going to leave with a little bit of money, some retirement. Would have been fine, but it was just an average. With this, if I'd have started 10 years before, we'd have been leaps and bounds above where we are now. But I know everything happens for a reason. I think God puts us in the right timing of everything. So I'm not complaining about that. I would have had a little more self-esteem to jump out there and make it in.
Good. What's a mistake you made or you see others make that contractors should avoid when growing their business?
Man, honestly, it wasn't I didn't know I was making a mistake, but we grew so fast that I couldn't hold on to it. I mean, thankfully we have, but there are so many growing pains that we've gone through, Catherine and I, just trying to keep our head above water. And it passes down to the employees. I mean, even the guys are like, dude, you got to slow down or you're going to kill us all. So I have learned we try not to work weekends any more than we have to. The seal coat crew does work weekends more than the paving crew, just because it's just part of what they do. But I've learned to try to juggle their schedules to make sure that they're not overdoing it as well. So just getting too big, I have learned not to overpromise for sure. I know I've mentioned that before, but just trying to make sure that everything is a step at a time. But I think for us, we need to implement a lot of SOPs just to make sure that we have it all figured out. And we're in the middle of doing that, but there's a lot of things that we've learned through TCS that's helped us have some ideas of how to move forward. And there's a lot of people that we've reached out to have some more information through them.
Yeah. So talking about TCS, what do you think if you could narrow it down, Jordan, what do you think your biggest takeaway from TCS is so far?
I think what's really cool about TCS so far is just that there are other contractors that are in our same shoes that have, in the same boat that we are right now. But there's also people who were in that boat 5 or 10 years ago that have come through that we can call on and ask questions. And everybody in TCS has been more than happy to answer questions, answer the phone, and just chat through things and give information if they're able to about how they've handled certain things in these, the same time frames that we're, these same growing pains, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm. How have you maintained your company culture and morale as you're growing and juggling multiple jobs now?
So honestly, one of the biggest things I try to do, and I think that the guys really appreciate it. I tell them thank you. Like, that's one of the morale builders that I do. And when I tell them thank you, I don't just say it, like, I truly mean it. Catherine and I both, like, we try to tell them how much we appreciate what they do. And we try to compensate them accordingly for everything that they do as well. One of the worst things that I always dreaded was asking for a raise we try to, as people take on responsibilities, we try to give them more money to help them, realize that, hey, we're at the right place. We try to look after them that way. If people need things, advice, different things, we try to be there as a mentor for our employees as well. And then, just we buy lunch, probably at least once a week, sometimes more. It just depends. And that seems to mean a lot to the guys. We're out in rural areas at times paving. Anything we can do just to take a load off of them seems to help.
For someone listening who's ready to kind of step up, either this could be in business or their equipment or whatever it might be, Jordan, what are the first 3 things they should do or consider?
I think the first thing, pray about it. Truly, if it starts kind of way on your mind, pray about it for guidance. Try to figure out which way God wants you to go. I did that and didn't feel like I was getting an answer until that one church service that I felt like he smacked me in the back of the head and said, hey, are you listening? But anyway, do your research, truly know what you're getting into. One of the things I go back to, I didn't know anything about seal coating or striping, but also saw a lot of the people that were doing it in this area. And I thought, man, I know if they can do it, I promise you I can. But I didn't know anything about it. So I actually I went and I researched and I talked to people. And Jim Seal Master, those guys actually helped me tremendously get started with referrals and just going through things and showing me what was what. So that was huge. I had learned the asphalt side through the School of Hard Knocks, unfortunately. But then, being able to talk to your customers by knowing those products is really helpful. I didn't know what to say to a seal coat customer until I truly just dug into it and figured that out. And then thirdly, just trust your gut. If that's if you feel that nudge to do something, man, don't make a quick decision, but definitely trust your gut. I trusted mine, and it hasn't led me wrong yet.
Good stuff. Let's go to the rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
You ready for these?
Yes, sir.
All right. What's your go-to piece of equipment on the job site?
The 8520C, the Lee Boy. We just bought one back in early summer, and we have loved it. The guys love it. Everyone came to me and said, man, I wish we'd have gotten this sooner. It just makes things easier, more efficient, and it's got power. We love it.
Like it. One business book you'd recommend?
So, honestly, I'm not a huge reader, Eric. But my wife got me some Chip Gaines books, and I really enjoyed what he had to say in there. There was a lot of stuff of basically the follow your dreams and bust your butt, and you'll be surprised at what you could make happen. And I'm in the process of reading a few others right now, but that was one that I've read front to back, the few that I have.
The best job you ever did, either in terms of challenge or satisfaction or both?
So we picked up a big job back early this year at a big trucking company in Greensboro. I had 11,000 tons on it. Had to be done in phases to allow them to continue to move their trucks in and out of the docks. We got in there, and in it was 5 or 6 weeks, we milled out, replaced all the utility structures, concrete around those, paved with 4 inches of binder and 2 inches of surface, and got out of there. And the customer was extremely happy with what we did, and it went off without a hitch. Couldn't have been more proud of the guys for the way they did that. We worked Saturdays and Sundays a few times up there because that was their slow day on Sunday. So it took me being there, helping, just kind of keeping things rolling. But man, I was so proud of our team for what they turned out on that. And I think the customer was as well.
What's one mistake you see new contractors make over and over?
It's getting in a hurry, man, rushing jobs. And when they get done, just not understanding the little things they could have done to make these jobs better. I think a torch is somebody's best friend in a paving company. and people are afraid to use them. Like it costs $20 to use a torch, a propane tank, and heat a joint to make it look seamless. And people are scared to death to use them for some reason.
What's your productivity hack when you're managing multiple projects?
Giving clear expectations in the mornings, people knowing exactly what they've got to do when they walk out the door of the shop, what equipment they're going to have, how many tons they're running, how many trucks they got on their crew that day, which plants they're dealing with. I think that just helps for them to know that stuff to be productive and move through their day without any issues.
This is a fun one. If you could have one wish for your business next year, what would it be?
Become more efficient on the administrative side, like with Catherine and I, to have everything that's seamless. I think our crews are doing really well, and we can fine tune a few things for sure. But for us, just to be more efficient in the management side and just keeping up with different things a little better.
And the last one, finish this sentence. The contractor who wins long term is the one who
continues to learn. Don't be afraid to learn and ask questions. I am not afraid to call other contractors within this area. We are friends with a lot of them, and I will call and pick their brain in a hot minute.
Good stuff. Any other things to add to the podcast, Jordan, or tell our community?
Not that I know of. Again, just don't be afraid to reach out, whether that's me or people around you. We all try to work together as far as contractors, whether it's local or whether it's through TCS. But I think we're all here for each other and happy to help anywhere we can.
Absolutely. That's good advice. That's good stuff. Well, thanks for being here today, Jordan.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's a wrap for today's episode, gang, of the TCS podcast. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.